Welcome to Fresh Faces, New Ideas. My name is David. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Please follow me on Twitter at FacesIdeas. Now, for this video, we're going to talk about the most recent police shooting in Minneapolis. This one was done a couple days ago. It was a 20-year-old. His name was Dante Wright. He was pulled over for, I believe it was an unregistered license. That's what it says. We'll go over the articles indirectly, and then I'll correct what I say as we read the articles. And then he was apparently resisting arrest, and then he was shot by an officer. The officer, according to what happened, and in the video, it does appear that what happened correlates to what they say happened, was the officer meant to tase him, and they shot him instead. Now, there's a lot going into this, and we're gonna go through the events of it. We're gonna go to the absurdity of how bad it is that this happened, specifically with this officer as well. And then we're going to go back to accountability and the absurd responses to this. So let's get started with that. All right, so this is the who is this? New York Times? New York Times coverage of this. This is saying, this is them covering it on the. So I'm not going to play the video, but on the video, she absolutely says taser, taser, taser. And the reason she says this is because, according to their training, they have to let their other officers know, okay, get out of the way so you don't get hit. And then she really does, because I've seen the video, I've heard it. The response of, holy shit, I shot him, is absolutely shock. In this case, it absolutely appears that she did not mean to kill this kid. Now, let's go to CNN. They have a timeline of this. So the ACLU's called for immediate investigation. They're calling for this. The mayor saying it was tragic. The National Guard is brought in, and this is absurd how fast the National Guard brought in to protect a police officer, but they couldn't get the National Guard to come in to protect the Capitol, even though the vice president was asking for it. Let's see what else. This is prior to them giving the update, because I went all the way to the bottom so we can go through this together. And then, so here's the thing. So the argument is, he had a warrant out of his arrest, so they had to kill him. This is an insane argument. It's very possible for people not to know that they have a warrant out for them. This is a thing that happens. It's also the warrant. Let's see if it says it here. My understanding is the warrant was over like a fine or something, some small fine, and it was over something that it's exacerbated by the pandemic. So it's possible that he did not know. However, the warrant was not. He was not a mass murderer. He was not a serial rapist. He was not a danger. This was a misdemeanor warrant that was out for him. That is possible that he didn't know about. Let's continue up. Body cam foot. So this is a new thing, and it's a little odd. Generally, when one of these things happen, it takes a little while for the body cam footage to actually come out, because usually it's egregious to what the officers did in these cases. But we did see the footage here, and look, I'm going to repeat this over and over again. It does appear that the officer made a mistake. The problem is, when I make a mistake and when she made a mistake, because it is a female, I'm not going to say her name because it's irrelevant. Somebody fucking died. He died because she made a mistake. Okay? People don't die when I make a mistake. This is an incredibly stupid quote. So this is also another thing. This happened 10 miles from where Derek Chauvin killed George Floyd, and the defense was trying to argue that we need to sequester the jury because police brutality and murdering people is so common in this area that it just happened again while this other guy was on trial for the last one. And this is the same area where Philando Castile was killed, and then in 2015 there was another shooting of an unarmed black man. So there's a pattern in this area. All right, so we're going to keep going. So the officer's on administrative leave. This is not acceptable. This officer should be fired. And whether charges are brought are different. But keep in mind, according to the autopsy report, it was a homicide. So let's continue here. Okay, so it appears to be accidental discharge. And look, I've seen the video. She absolutely meant to use her taser. It is not enough of an excuse. It's an accidental discharge. Because when you're in this position, you can't be held to a lower standard. When you're a soldier, or you're a doctor, or you're a police officer, or you're in some position where if you fuck up, people die, the burden of where you do an accident and you paying for it is much lower. It's not higher, it's lower, because you have, especially in the case of a police officer, you have the state monopolies use of force. You are the arm of the state in order to use force. We've designated that you have the ability to use force. So when you have a mistake, the answer cannot be, oh, we're going to let this one go. It has to be, you need to be punished for this mistake because you have this extra responsibility to make sure that you do the right thing with this power that you're given. The more power you have over a person's life and the ability to end it, the more responsible you have to be when you take it incorrectly. Any use of force that is not deemed necessary needs to be met with an appropriate level of response. That means that the people who do these type of things need to be not like on administrative leave for a little or shuffled around to a different office. This person needs to be fired. Whether they need to be prosecuted or not, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. But she should at the very least be fired. And we're going to get into more on this. So, let's see what they said. From what I understand, the public safety briefing, there was an expired registration on the vehicle. The tags were expired upon arrival when the officer made contact. At the time he walked up to the car, he discovered there was a hanging item from the rearview mirror. So there was a contact. The officer went up there initially for obtained his ID or his name. He walked back to his car, and that's when he found out he had a warrant. That's why they removed him from the car and they're making custodial arrest. So, look, he was pulled over for expired registration. They had his warrant, they had his name, so they could have put out an APB on him. They did not need to go straight to use of force because he was resisting. This is part of the problem, is the immediate training of going to use of force. Now, we're going to go into some of the defensive arguments about this and why they're absurd. Let's see what else. Body cam footage, we've talked about this. They're going to go over this. I hope she gets fired. She should be fired. I don't care that the police chief is emotional. Knowing their name is fine because it's good to keep track of when if these people are fired or if they're moved to different departments. This is how we know the guy that killed Tamir Rice had bounced around between a couple of departments from doing these type of things. This is the timeline for the initial traffic stop. They said it was an accident, and now the officer's on leave. Let's continue here. All the games in Minnesota were postponed yesterday. He should be alive, this kid. It was absolutely preventable. Let's see what else. The White House made a statement, independent investigation. So then now we're going into the protest. This is more of that. Okay, so they did a protest, and then they fired the city manager. I'm not sure why. I don't understand why he was the one who was fired. Okay, so this was ruled a homicide. Okay, this is the president talking about it. So now the officer's been identified. I don't care who the officer was. And then they want people to go home. So we're going to go to that later. So let's talk about the difference between a firearm and a taser. Now, according to the police officer, and this has been backed up by people, and the actual chief said this, your taser is kept on your non-dominant hand, which makes sense because you want to be able to shoot accurately with your strong hand. That would make sense. However, a taser is like a fourth the weight of a firearm when it's full. So you should be able to pick it up. So if you pick up a 1 pound weight and you pick up a 4 pound weight, you should feel a difference. So now this is a picture of a Glock. This is the gun the police use, and this is the picture of a taser. The reason for this is to make the difference between them being non-lethal. These are very different. It is inexcusable that this officer mixed these up. Okay? It is inexcusable. Now, the argument originally prior to today was, maybe that she was new or she got confused. She was a 26-year veteran and was the head of the police union. She should have known better than to pull the wrong gun. And yes, look, in the heat of the moment, it makes sense that she, you get confused. The problem is when you're in this position, you can't get confused. That's what I want to make very clear. The use of force that we have authorized the police to use because of what we've given them, the standard has to be higher. You can't say, I got scared. I got confused. Or the Chauvin case. The crowd yelling at me to stop murdering this guy made me murder him extra hard. You have a higher burden of proof because your job requires you, at least in America, to have the ability to take people's lives. So you need to have a higher standard of what counts as a mistake. Okay? So this is the other thing I want to talk about. Police violence. Police have killed 268 people in 2021. I'm not arguing whether they were armed or not. I just want to make the point to how many people get killed by the police in America. It is a lot. Black people were 28% of those killed, despite being over 13% of the population. Now, in a lot of responses, you're going to hear the 1350 response. They're 13% of the population, but they're 50% of the crimes. This statistic is wrong. It is racist. It does not take into account a lot of other things that are used. But I'm not going into that anyway. So here, there are only 18 days in 2020 when police did not kill somebody. Now let's take a look at what this graphic was. So if it's red, it's 3+ killings by the police. That's a lot of fucking red there. Look, in May, almost every single one of them was 3+ people. Now, I'm not saying every police killing is unjustified. I'm saying the fact that the police have so much force is a problem. Okay? So let's go to this. Now, there's a couple of other things. One, I'm not one of those people who agree with Rashida Tlaib that we should abolish all the police. This particular precinct has a massive problem. The response to it immediately being having a Blue Lives Matter flag flying is a problem. The fact that this keeps happening multiple times, the fact that Derek Chauvin, which the judge ruled you can't talk about in the case, had over 20 instances of overuse of force of complaints against him in his career is a problem. This police department needs to be reformed, and they need to have stricter guidelines on it. This particular one appears to be an accident. It does not make it acceptable. And now, let's go to the big old counter arguments. Because you'll see this online. Stop, if you don't resist, they're not going to kill you. Okay, the only way that's an acceptable response is if when you're resisting, you're attempting to hurt the officer. If you're going to actually attack the officer, then the officer should be able to respond in kind with an appropriate level of force. Not chokeholds and knees on the neck for 9 minutes. If you pull out a gun or a knife, then they should respond with lethal force. If you say, but what if they have a knife? Or what if they could have a gun in their pocket? You don't know. Well, what if they have a nuclear bomb strapped to their chest? Like, you creating this insane hypothetical. Now, true, there is a chance that person has a gun on them because in America we have so many firearms. But this idea of if you respond, the police don't have to kill you. Too many of these cases, the police are killing people over nothing or ridiculously small things. We've seen it over and over again. Philando Castile, they thought he smelled weed, so now he has to die. It's the guy in who they shot in his backyard. They thought he had a phone. They thought it was a crowbar. They shot him in the backyard. Tamir Rice had a small gun, and even some of these aren't even that. Daniel Schaefer, there was no reason for Daniel Schaefer to die. Now let's go to the other side of this argument. Well, which is we know this person's name, but we don't know the name of the person who shot Ashley Babbitt. So this is where those two arguments break apart because it's usually the same people making both of these arguments. Hey, if you comply with the police, they're not going to have to kill you. And B, why don't we know who killed Ashley Babbitt? And now to reiterate, who is Ashley Babbitt? Ashley Babbitt was one of the terrorist insurrectionists who attacked the Capitol. She is the only person who was shot on that day. Now let's repeat that. The only person shot during the insurrection was one person. One. Were they complying with the police? No. They were actively attacking them. Now, according to the people who say if you don't resist, they're not going to have to kill you, why weren't more of them killed? See, because your argument makes no sense. You can't have it both ways. You can't attack a Capitol and say, oh, we need to know who did this to hold them responsible, while they didn't comply and nobody received. They did not get the force met to them that African Americans are met with. This is the difference. Overwhelming force is usually generated toward African Americans. We saw this. The perfect example was the assault on the Capitol and the BLM protest. One of them was met with riot gear. The other one was told to stand down. One of them was attacked. The other one, even while they attacked the Capitol, only one person died. Now, I'm not advocating for more of them to have died. I'm advocating for them to have been arrested. Now, the main takeaway from this is the police need to be reformed. They need to change the way they do training. They definitely need to have more training on when to use firearms and things like that, or when to use force, because too often they use force. Like we saw in Virginia, that officer was, one of the officers was fired. In this case, this one, while it is absolutely egregious and she should be fired, and whether or not she's prosecuted is up to a lawyer to decide, this one actually does appear to be the least egregious, unacceptable killing I've seen probably in a long time, because you could tell when you watch the video that that officer did not mean to kill this kid. That does not make it acceptable. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Please follow me on Twitter @FacesIdeas, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you like this content, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and that'll keep you up to date on all my stuff. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.